I wasn't going to go live for another half an hour. Let me get organized and be right with you. There we go. I'm sorry, folks. I was setting it up and I accidentally hit live. I accidentally hit go live. Let me just get things a little more organized here. So sorry. Go. No, that's not going to work. There we go. Right there. Oh! Cheese and crackers! I just grabbed... I just tipped my cup of tea all over myself. Ugh! Hey, Tina! Thank you for the Christmas card, honey. I just spilt tea all over the place. I'll be right back. Oh, I gotta change my shirt. Oh. Sorry about that, folks. I elbowed my cup of tea and it spilt all over me. And all over the floor here. Oh, no. No. Okay, that's fine. That's good. Thank you. Yes, I did. I did get everybody's. It was the best birthday ever. Honest to God, best birthday of my life that I can remember. What is it? Want to look matching, you know what I mean? Oh, well, I'm glad. So we're doing Little Men Live. Let me just get my computer pulled up here. Goodness gracious. I'll tell you what, I'm as clumsy as a bull in a china shop today. Now, just my hands don't want to work. Okay, let me get my computer revved back up. Piece of crap that it is, but it is a wonderfully working piece of crap. So, all right, now let's get the chat off there. Pull you guys up on my computer. View your channel. Hit the videos. Hit the live, and there we are, Little Men Live, Chapter 7. Uh-oh. What? You gonna tell everybody you're feeling better? Come on. What? Oh, kata. Oh, kata. Now go lay down. No, go lay down. You want this old shirt of Daddy's that I was going to rip up and throw in the garbage? You want to lay on that? There you go. Go lay down. She's back in her old frame of mind where everything's about Gracie. It's always about Gracie. Okay. Hey, Tina, Aaron, Willow's Garden, and We'd Be Buzzing. And guess what? As soon as we're done this, we're going to roll right into Freaky Friday on another channel. So, Little Men Live, I do believe it's chapter 27. I'm not the greatest with Roman numeral. Wait a minute. It says XV22. So that's 27, isn't it? Hey, Willow. So how are things going, baby? You know, I'm telling you, it's the best birthday I've ever had. Because I woke up with no expectations. Because My birthday is usually the last thing on the burner. You know what I mean? But I'll tell you, wait till you see today, Saturday. Wait till you see Monday's video. You should see my cactus garden. It's absolutely stunning. 17. It can't be. There's more than 17 chapters in this book, isn't there? It doesn't tell you how many chapters there are. Okay, so it was 17 then. Here I was thinking it was 26 and this was 27. Because there was the last chapter. Okay, was 16. Dopey me. Dopey me. So I'll have to change that in the title for next week. All right, chapter 17. Chapters. Ooh, the very dark and stormy night. Ooh. Just kidding. All right. Chapter 17, Composition Day. Hurry up, boys. It's 3 o'clock, and Uncle Fritz likes us to be punctual, you know, said Franz one Wednesday afternoon as bell rang, and a stream of literary-looking young gentlemen with books and paper in their literary-looking young gentlemen with books and papers in their hands were seen going toward the museum. Tommy was in the schoolroom, bending over his desk, much bedaubed with ink, flushed with the ardor of inspiration, and in a great hurry, as usual, for the easy-going Bangs never was ready till the very last minute. As Franz pushed the door, As Franz passed the door, looking up laggards, Tommy gave one last blot and flourish and departed out the window, waving his paper to dry as he went. Nan followed, looking very important, with a large roll in her hand, and Demi escorted Daisy, both evidently brimful of some delightful secret. The museum was all in order, and the sunshine among the hop vines made pretty shadows on the floor as it peeped through the great window. On one side sat Mr. and Mrs. Bear. Okay, I have to repicture that in my head. The museum was all in order, and the sunshine among the hop vines, I wish I could have hop vines. I'd never have to buy yeast again, made pretty shadows on the floor as it peeped through the great window. On the one side sat Mr. and Mrs. Bear, and on the other was a little table on which the compositions were laid, as soon as read, and then in a large semicircle sat the children on camp stools, which occasionally shut up and let the sitter down, thus preventing any stiffness in the assembly. As it took too much time to have all read, they took turns, and on this Wednesday the younger pupils were the chief performers, while the elder ones listened with condescension and criticized freely. Of course, being, probably 13 and 14, they probably figured they knew it all, right? Ladies first, so Nan may begin, said Mr. Bear, when the settling of the stools and rustling of papers had subsided. Nan took her place beside the little table and with a preliminary giggle read the following interesting essay on the sponge. The sponge, my friends, is a most useful and interesting plant. It grows on rocks under water and is a kind of a seaweed, I believe. People go and pick it and dry it and wash it because little fish and insects live in the holes of the sponge. I found shells in my new one, and sand. Some are very fine and soft, and babies are washed with them. The sponge has many uses. I will relate some of them, and I hope my friends will remember what I say. One is used to wash the face. I don't like it myself, but I do it because I wish to be clean. Some people don't, and they are dirty. Here the eye of the reader rested sternly upon Dick and Dolly, who quailed under it, and instantly resolved to scrub themselves virtuously on all occasions. Another use is to wake people up. I allude to boys particularly. Another pause after the long word enjoyed the smothered laugh that went around the room. Some boys who do not get up when called, and Mary Ann squeezes water out of a wet sponge on their faces and wakes them up so mad they wake up. I did that to Briar once. He just would not get out of bed. I took a half a glass of water downstairs and I threw it on him. And then I ran as fast as my pudgy friggin' diseased legs would carry me. He was furious. But by the time he got upstairs, he was wide awake, and I had his lunch ready and said, go to school. Uh, Seems to me you are wandering from the subject. No, I ain't. We are to write about vegetables or animals, and I'm doing both. For boys are animals, aren't they? Cried Nan, and undaunted by the indignant no shouted at her, she calmly proceeded. One more interesting thing is done with sponges, and that is when doctors put ether on it and hold it to people's noses when they have their teeth out. I shall do this when I'm bigger and give ether to the sick so they will go to sleep and not feel me cut off their legs and arms. She's a dark little soul, eh? We had what we thought might have been an earthquake earlier. It was just a long, low rumbling like a train in the distance, and you could almost feel it, but not quite. And how he heard it, apparently it was felt all the way from Farlton to here. So that's like a 10-mile run. So we'll see. Just when the insurance company, I turned down the insurance company on earthquake insurance because they wanted another $100 a month. I wasn't doing that. Okay. And give ether to the sick so they will go to sleep and not feel cut off their arms and legs. I know somebody who kills cats with it, called out Demi, but was promptly crushed by Dan, who upset his camp stool and put a hat over his face. I will not be interrupted, said Nan, frowning upon the unseemly skirmishes. Order was instantly restored, and the young lady closed her remarks as follows. My composition has 3 morals, my friends. Somebody groaned, but no notice was taken of the insult. First is to keep your faces clean. Second, get up early. And third, when the ether sponge is put over your nose, breathe hard and don't kick. Your teeth will come out easily. I have no more to say. And Miss Nan sat down amid tumultuous applause. That is a very remarkable composition. Its tone is high, and there is a good deal of humor in it. Very well done, Nan. Now, Daisy. And Mr. Bear smiled at one young lady as he beckoned the other. Daisy colored prettily as she took her place and said in her modest little voice, I'm afraid you won't like mine. It isn't nice and funny like Nan's, but I couldn't do any better. We always liked yours, Posy, said Uncle Fritz, and a gentle murmur from the boys seemed to confirm the remark. Thus encouraged, Daisy read her little paper, which was listened to with respectful attention. The cat. The cat is a sweet animal. I love them very much. They are clean and pretty and catch rats and mice, and let you pet them, and they are fond of you if you are kind. They are very wise and can find their way anywhere. Little cats are called kittens and are dear things. I have 2, named Huzz and Buzz, and their mother is Topaz because she has yellow eyes. Uncle told me a pretty story about a man named Mohammed. He had a nice cat, and when she was asleep on his sleeve and he wanted to go away, cut off his sleeve so as not to wake her up. I think he was a kind man. Some cats catch fish. So do I, cried Teddy, jumping up eager to tell about his trout. Hush, said his mother, setting him down again as quickly as possible, for orderly Daisy hated to be interrupted, as Nan expressed it. I read about one who used to do it very slyly. I tried to make Topaz, but she did not like the water and scratched me. She does like tea, and when I play in my kitchen, she pats the teapot with her paw, till I give her some. She is a fine cat, and she eats apple pudding and molasses. Most cats do not. That's a first-rater, called out Nat, and Daisy retired, pleased with the praise of her friend. Demi looks so important we must have him up at once, or he won't hold out, said Uncle Fritz, and Demi skipped up with alacrity. Mine is a poem, he announced in a tone of triumph, and read the first effort in a loud and solemn voice. I write about the butterfly. It's a pretty thing, and flies about like the birds, but it does not sing. First it is a little grub, and then it is a nice yellow cocoon, and then the butterfly. Then the butterfly eats its way out. Soon they live on dew and honey. They do not have any hive. They do not sing like wasps and bees and hornets. And to be as good as they are, we should strive. I should like to be a beautiful butterfly, and yellow and blue and green and red. But I should not like to have Dan put camphor on my poor little head. This unusual burst of genius brought down the house, and Demi was obliged to read it again, at a somewhat difficult task, as there was no punctuation whatsoever, and the little poet's breath gave out before he got to the end of some of the long lines. "He'll be a Shakespeare yet," said Aunt Jo, laughing as if she would die, for this poetic gem reminded her one of her own, written at the age of 10 and beginning gloomily, "I wish I had a quiet tomb beside a little rill, where birds and bees and butterflies could sing upon the hill." Come on, Tommy. If there is such ink inside your paper as there is out, if there's as much ink inside your paper as outside, it will be a long composition, said Mr. Bear, when Demi had been induced to tear himself from his poem and sit down. "It isn't a composition, it's a letter. You see, I forgot all about it being my turn after school, and then I didn't know what to have, and there wasn't time to read up. So I thought you wouldn't mind my taking a letter that I wrote to my grandma. It's got something about birds in it, so I thought it would do." With this long excuse, Tommy plunged into the sea of ink and floundered through, pausing now and then to decipher one of his own flourishes. "My dear Grandma, I hope you are well. Uncle James sent me a pocket rifle. It's a beautiful little instrument of killing, shaped like this." Here Tommy displayed a remarkable sketch of what looked like an intricate pump, or the inside of a small steam engine. 44 are the sights. 6 is a false stock that fits in an A3 is the trigger, and 2 is the cock. It loads at the breech and fires with great force and straightness. I'm going out shooting squirrels soon, and I shot several fine birds for the museum. They had speckled breasts, and Dan liked them very much. He stuffed them tip-top, and they sit on top of the tree, quite natural. Only one looks a little tipsy. We had a Frenchman working here at the other day, and Asia called his name so funnily that I will tell you about it. His name was German. First she called him Jerry, but we laughed at her, and then she changed it to Jeremiah, but ridicule was the result. So it became Mr. Germany. But ridicule having been again resumed, it became Mr. Garryman, which it has remained ever since. I don't write often, I'm so busy, but I think of you often and can sympathize with you, and sincerely hope you will get on well as can be expected without me. Your affectionate grandson, Thomas Buckminster Bangs. P.S. If you come across any postage stamps, remember me. N.B. Love to all, and a great deal to Aunt Elmira. Does she make any nice plum cakes now? P.S. ? Mrs. Bear sends her respects. N.B. Father is going to give me a watch on my birthday, and I'm glad as at present I have no means of telling time, and I'm often late for school. P.S. ? I hope to see you soon. Don't you wish to send for me? T.B.B. Or Thomas Buckminster Bangs. As each postscript was received with a fresh laugh from the boys, by the time he came to the sixth and last, Tommy was so exhausted that he was glad to sit down and wipe his ruddy face. "I hope the dear old lady will live through it," said Mr. Bear under the cover of noise. "We won't take any notice of the broad hint given in the last P.S. The letter will be quite as much as she can bear without a visit from Tommy," answered Mrs. Jo, remembering that the old lady usually took to her bed after a visitation from her irrepressible grandson. Sounds like me. "Now me," said Teddy, who had learned a bit of poetry and was so eager to say it that he had been bobbing up and down during the reading and could no longer be restrained. "I'm afraid I will forget it if he waits, and I have a deal of trouble teaching him," said his mother. Teddy trotted to the rostrum, dropped a curtsy, and nodded his head at the same time, as if anxious to suit everyone. Then, in his baby voice, And putting the emphasis on the wrong words, he said his verse all in one breath. Little drops of water, little drains of sand, mate a might oakum, ocean, and a pleasant land. Little words of kindness, poking every day, make a home a heaven and help us on a way. Okay, so that's supposed to be little drops of water, little grains of sand, make a mighty ocean and a pleasant land. That's a song, I think. Little words of kindness spoken every day, make a home a heaven and help us on our way. Isn't that beautiful? Clapping his hands at the end, he made another double salutation and then ran to hide his head in his mother's lap, quite overcome by the success of his piece, for the applause was tremendous. Dick and Dolly did not write, but were encouraged to observe the habits of animals and insects and report what they saw. Dick liked this and always had a great deal to say. So when his name was called, he marched up and, looking at the audience with his bright, confiding eyes, told his little story so earnestly that no one smiled at his crooked body, because the straight soul shone through it beautifully. I've been watching dragonflies. I love dragonflies. And I read about them in Dan's book. And I try and tell you what I remember. There's lots of them flying around on the pond, all blue with big eyes and sort of lace wings, very pretty. I caught one and looked at him, and I think he was the handsomest insect I ever saw. They catch little critters than they are to eat. They catch littler critters than they are to eat and have a queer kind of looking thing that folds up when they ain't hunting. It shines like sunshine and dances around all day. Let me see. What else is there to tell about it? I'll tell you something. Dragonflies are the only insect that can fly backwards, as far as I know. Same with the hummingbird. Oh, I know. The eggs are laid in water and go down to the bottom and are hatched in the mud. Little ugly things come out of them. I can't say the name. I think it's larva. Only think, it takes them 2 years to be a dragonfly. Now is the curious part of it. So you listen tight, for I don't believe you know it. When it is ready, it knows somehow, and the ugly, grubby thing climbs up out of the water on a flag or a bulrush and bursts open its back. Come, I don't believe that, said Tommy, who was not an observant boy and really thought Dick was making it up. It does burst open its back, don't it? Dick appealed to Mr. Bear, who nodded a very decided affirmative to the little speaker's great satisfaction. Well, out comes the dragonfly, all whole, and he sits in the sun, sort of coming alive, you know. And then he gets strong, and then he spreads his pretty wings and flies away up in the air, never as a grub anymore. That's all I know, but I shall try and see him do it, for I think it's splendid to turn into a beautiful dragonfly, don't you? Dick had told his story well, and when he described the flight of the newborn insect, had waved his hands and looked up as if he saw and wanted to follow it. Something in his face suggested to the minds of the elder listeners the thought that someday little Dick would have his wish, and after years of helplessness and pain would climb up into the sunny, happy day, leaving his poor little body behind him, find a new lovely shape in a fairer world than this. Mrs. Joe drew him to her side and said with a kiss on his thin cheek, "That is a sweet little story, dear, and you remembered it wonderfully well. I shall write and tell your mother all about it." And Dick sat on her knee contentedly smiling at the praise and resolving to watch well and watch the dragonfly in the act of leaving its old body for the new and see how he did it. Dolly had a few remarks to make upon the duck and made them in a sing-song tone, for she had learned it by heart and thought it a great plague to do it all. Wild ducks are hard to kill. Men hide and shoot them. I don't like duck meat. I'd eat it if I was starving, but I don't like duck meat. And have tame ducks to quack and make wild ones come there. Okay. Wild ducks are hard to kill, and men hide and shoot at them, and have tame ducks to quack and make the wild ones come where the men can fire at them. They have wooden ducks made too, and they sail around and the wild ones come to see them. They're stupid, I think. Our ducks are very tame. They eat a great deal and go poking around in the mud and water. They don't take good care of their eggs, but them spoil and... Mine don't, cried Tommy. Well, some people's do. Silas said so. Hens take good care of little ducks, only they don't like to have them go in the water and make a great fuss. But the little ones don't care a bit. I like to eat ducks with stuffing in them and lots of applesauce. I have something to say about owls, began Nat, who carefully prepared a paper upon this subject with some help from Dan. Owls have big heads and round eyes. You know, they say that the owl is, the symbol of wisdom. Their brains are like the size of a pea. They are all eyes and ears. The shape of the fur around their eyes is to funnel the minutest sound back into their ear canals. And they're almost silent in flight. I love owls. Owls have big heads and round eyes and hooked bills and strong claws. That's because they're hunters. Some are gray, some are white, some black and yellowish. Their feathers are very soft and stick out a great deal. They fly very quietly and hunt bats, mice, and little birds and such things. They build nests in barns and hollow trees, and some take the nests of other birds. The great horned owl has 2 eggs bigger than a hen's and reddish-brown. The tawny owl has 5 eggs, white and smooth, and is like the kind that hoots at night. Another kind sounds like a child crying. They eat mice and bats whole, and the parts that they cannot digest, they make into little balls and spit out. I was waiting for this. Did you know that owls have no arseholes? That everything they eat, they digest completely. And what they don't digest, they spit out balls. They're called owl balls, and it's proof they don't shit. Okay. My gracious, how funny, Nan was heard to observe. They cannot see by day, and if they go out into the light, they go flapping around half blind, and the other birds chase and peck at them as if they were making fun. The horned owl is very big, most as big as the eagle. It eats rats, snakes, mice, birds, and lives in rocks and old tumble-down houses. They have a good many cries and scream like a person being choked and say, "Wow, wow," and it scares people at night in the woods. The white owl lives by the sea and in cold places and looks something like a hawk. There is a kind of owl that makes holes to live in like moles. They're called burrowing owls. It is called, and I have watched one sitting, like moles. It is called the burrowing owl. Okay, I should just shut up and read. And is very small. The barn owl is the commonest kind, and I have watched one sitting in a hole in a tree, looking like a little gray cat, with one eye shut and one eye open. He comes out at dusk and sits around waiting for the bats. I caught one, and here he is. With that, Nat suddenly produced from inside his jacket a little downy bird who blinked and ruffled his feathers, looking very plump and sleepy and scared. "Don't touch him. He's going to show off," said Nat, displaying his new pet with great pride. First, he put a cocked hat on the bird's head, and the boys laughed at the funny effect. Then he added a pair of paper spectacles and gave the owl such a wise look that they shouted with merriment. The performance closed with making the bird angry and seeing him cling to a handkerchief upside down, pecking and clucking, as Rob called it. He was allowed to fly after that and settled himself on a bunch of pine cones over the door, where he sat staring down at the company with an air of sleepy dignity that amused them very much. No owl poop. Look it up. That's what I was told. That's what I learned. Well, I read and learned ever so much about moles, but I declare I've forgotten every bit of it, except that they dig holes to live in and that you catch them by pouring water down, and when they can't possibly live without eating very often. Stuffy sat down, wishing he had not been too lazy to write out his valuable observations, for a general smile went around the mention of the last of the three facts, which lingered in his memory. Okay. Then we are done for today, began Mr. Bear, but Tommy called out in a great hurry, "No, we ain't! Don't you know we must have the thing?" And he winked violently as he made an eyeglass of his fingers. "Bless my heart, I forgot. Now it's your time, Tom." And Mr. Bear dropped into his seat while all the boys but Dan looked mightily tickled at something. Nat, Tommy, and Demi left the room and speedily returned with a little red Morocco box set forth in state on Mrs. Joe's best silver salver. Tommy bore it, and still escorted by Nat and Demi, marched up to an unsuspecting Dan, who had stared at them as if he thought they were going to make fun of him. Tommy had prepared an elegant and impressive speech for the occasion, but when the minute came, it all went out of his head, and he just said, straight from his kindly boyish heart, "Here, old fellow, we all wanted to give you something to kind of pay for what happened a while ago, and to show you how much we like you for being such a trump. Please take it and have a jolly good time with it." Dan was so surprised he could only get as red as the little box and mutter, "Thank ye, boys," as he fumbled to open it. But when he saw what was inside, his face lighted up, and he seized the long-desired treasure. Everyone knows we're talking about the microscope, right? Saying so enthusiastically that everyone was satisfied, though his language was anything but polished, "What a stunner! I say, you fellows are regular bricks to give it to me. It's just what I wanted. Give us your paw, Tommy." Many paws were given and heartily shaken, for the boys were charmed with Dan's pleasure and crowded around him to shake hands and expatiate on the beauties of their gift. In the midst of this pleasant chatter, Dan's eye went to Mrs. Joe, who stood outside the group enjoying the scene with all her heart. "No, I had nothing to do with it. The boys got it all up themselves," she said, answering, the grateful look that seemed to thank her for that happy moment. Dan smiled and said in a tone that only she understood, It's you all the same," he said, making his way through the boys, and held out his hand first to her and then to the good professor, who was beaming benevolently on his flock. He thanked them both with the silent, hearty squeeze he gave the kind hands that held him up and led him into the safe refuge of a happy home. Not a word was spoken, but they all felt he would say, and little Teddy expressed his pleasure for them as he leaned from his father's arm to hug the boy and say in his baby way, "My good Danny, everybody loves him now. Come here and show off your spyglass, Dan, and let us see some of your magnificent pollywogs and animalculisms, as you call them," said Jack, who felt so uncomfortable during this scene that he would have slipped away if Emil had not kept him. "So I will. Take a squint at it and see what you think of it," said Dan, eager to show off his precious microscope. He held it over a beetle that happened to be lying on the table, and Jack bent down to take his squint and looked up with an amazed face, saying, "My eye, what nippers that old thing has got. I see now why it hurts so confoundedly when you grab a door bug and he grabs back." "He winked at me," cried Nan, who had poked her head under Jack's elbow and got the second peep. Everyone took a look, and then Dan showed them the lovely plumage on a moth's wing, the 4 feathery corners to a hair, and the veins of a leaf hardly visible to the naked eye, but like a thick net through the wonderful little glass, the skin on his own fingers looking like queer hills and valleys, a cobweb like a bit of coarse sewing silk, and the sting of a bee. It's like fairy spectacles in my storybook, only more curious," said Demi, enchanted with the wonders he saw. "Dan is a magician now. He can show you many miracles going on all around you, for he has 2 things needful, patience and a love of nature. We live in a beautiful and wonderful world, Demi, and the more you know about it, the wiser and better you will be. This little glass will give you a new set of teachers, and you may learn fine lessons from them if you will, said Mr. Bear, who glad to see how interested the boys were with the matter. Could I see anybody's soul with a microscope if I looked hard? Asked Demi, who was much impressed with the power of that bit of glass. No, dear. It's not powerful enough for that, and never can be made so. You must wait a long while before your eyes are clear enough to see the most visible of God's wonders. But looking at the lovely things you can see will help you understand the lovelier things we cannot see, answered Uncle Fritz with his hand on the boy's head. Well, Daisy and I both think that if there are any angels, their wings look like that butterfly's, and as we see it through the glass, only more soft and gold. Believe it if you like, and keep your own little wings as bright and beautiful, only don't fly away for a long time yet. No, I won't, and Demi kept his word. Goodbye, my boys. I must go now, but I leave you with our new professor of natural history. And Mrs. Joe went away, pleased with that composition day. Thank you for joining me on Little Men Alive, Chapter 17. Holy smokes, what a silliness. I told you I was no good at Roman numerals when I was a kid. Take care, God bless, and we'll see you another day soon. I'm going to try and, slip in here as often as I can to finish this book, because then we're going to start on Little Town on the Prairie, right? Mwah! Take care, God bless, and we'll see you again soon. Thanks for coming.